Samira, good morning. Okay, so let's start. Most likely next class will be some sort of a tutorial class. So today we are going to essentially learn how to solve problems. Should be an interesting class today, but an easy one. So there we go. We start from here. I guess this graph now makes sense to everyone, right? So what are the stuff we have learned in the previous class? We have learned how to handle the triangular plot or the three-component system, right? This is in the form of this graph. So where all the three apex correspond to 100% of that component. And as you walk away from the apex, its concentration reduces. So every point, I guess, now this class, people who have been attending the classes at least, they can identify what is the composition of A, B, and C at each of the point. Subsequently, and also this is the typical situation in extraction. So you have a feed which comprises of A and C. You have a solvent, it's mixed in the simplest form, it's a batch extractor, right? Or it's a single stage continuous extractor, and you get an extract and you get a raffinate, right? And what about Y and X? Y is typically the concentration of C in the extract, and X is the concentration of raffinate in the extract. And what we also know that A and B are partially miscible, B and C are fully miscible, A and C are fully miscible. So if you plug in the idea that A and B are partially miscible, so if you just want to take, so please do understand that this plot, whenever we are drawing, this is at a constant pressure and constant temperature. Because for a three-component system, the degrees of freedom is 4, right? And what are the independent variables you need to define? They are pressure, temperature, and two compositions. So here you are defining two compositions. So this graph is at a constant pressure and constant temperature. So at a constant temperature, since A and B are partially miscible, so what you have, where on this graph you have a mixture of A and B, it's along the line AB. And since it's partially miscible, you will have 2 points, right? Let's say the point P1 and point P2, right? So AP1 is a homogeneous mixture, or a zone where the mixture is homogeneous. It's an A-rich homogeneous mixture. P2B or BP2 is again a homogeneous mixture. It's a B-rich homogeneous mixture. And in between P1 and P2, whatever composition you take, D1 or any other point you take, it's a two-phase, it splits up into two phases, right? What you need to understand, unlike distillation, where the two phases in equilibrium was one in vapor and one in liquid, here both the phases given by composition P1 and composition P2, both are liquid, okay? And then what we tried to understand that if you now slowly add C to this system, what happens is C, if you add C and C distributes equally into A and B, then you would have got, so if you add C into the system, you now get points like this, right? And what we also know from the physics of the system, that C has higher solubility in B than A. That means whatever is XC in the phase B or this particular side should be higher than that in that phase which is rich in A, or extract and raffinate we are defining. And therefore the tie lines will no longer remain parallel to AB, or they will no longer remain horizontal, but they will start slowly tilting like this. And for systems where you have higher solubility of C in B, right? Obviously, you can understand that this point, or P22, as we have discussed in the previous class, this is higher than P11, the XC in point P11, and therefore you are going to have tie lines like this. Okay, so typically what you have, there can be another interesting question, how you generate this data. So let us look into it, how you generate this data. It's very simple. This is the equilibrium data we are talking about. We are not yet talking about extraction problems. So I don't know whether you do this experiment, but anyway, you can learn. So you take different beakers. And you put in mixture of A, B, and C with different composition. So you know the composition. And first what you observe is, so you may be having 20 such beakers, and you first observe whether it remains. So what are the two visual observations you may have? Possibility one is it remains homogeneous. And possibility two is there is phase separation. So first what you do is you identify the points on this graph and simply mark which are homogeneous and which exhibits phase separation. This is the first thing you do. Something like this. Anything else you may need to do? This is clear? Next, anything? So how do we get the dome? Just this much amount of analysis and observation is going to be enough? Anyone? Border between the two? Okay, Varun is the only one who is trying. Why others are adopting a Maun Vrat? 77 people already up there. That's very good. Ayush? Chavi? Akhil Nama? Palak? Tejas? Rahul Goldar? Shayan Maiti? Samira? Mixing A and B to get the 2 points. Show me, what does it mean? We have already taken. So get your concepts clarified. If you remain silent like this, I am telling something. It's in an online mode. You will understand something. So let's get the concepts clear, right? So that you don't complain after the course is over that we did not learn anything. What we are doing, please understand again. You might have taken 20 or 25 different beakers, large number of beakers, different compositions of A, B, and C. Right? So different compositions of A, B, and C, if you take, there's no great experiment you are doing, very simple experiment, but a very useful one. What you get to see is, depending on the physics of the system, since A and B has partial miscibility, you are either going to see a homogeneous mixture or you are going to see a phase separation. This is clear to all. And if you see a homogeneous mixture, the composition is known. So let's say for homogeneous mixture, we are going to use this symbol. And in case we observe phase separation, we are going to use this symbol, right? So is this clear? So when I put the sticks over here, it means that I have taken out these compositions, right? And these compositions give us a homogeneous mixture. This is clear to all? And in certain compositions, you get to see that there is phase separation. So you mark it like this. Anything else you need to do? This is the question. I understand most of the time we do not think in this line, but that doesn't matter. Let us think now. It's never too late. Odrija, are you there? And I called some people. If you don't know or if you have no idea what to do, please at least respond. Chavi, Tejas, all of you I called. Yeah, so anybody, anything else that needs to be done? Varun, can you think of anything? No temperature. Well, Varun, you do not do it that way. Shomik also tried to mean something like that. All you need to do is very simple. The beakers, which shows that there is phase separation, all you have to do now is to do an analysis of the two phases to determine the composition of the two phases. How to do the composition analysis? Your chemist friends will tell you, maybe some titration or God knows. So this is important. For the systems where you see an homogeneous phase, you don't have to do anything else. But the moment you see that for one composition, you have phase separation, you have to now determine the composition of the two phases. And once you determine the composition of the two phases, what are you actually getting? You are actually getting the two ends of the tie line. Is it clear? Another composition giving heterogeneous situation. Again, you determine the two phases, you get the tie line. Is it clear now? See, what I keep on telling, everything is understandable, every single thing. It's not like this graph comes from the air, right? You need to understand what to do. So yeah, of course, we are very happy. We see homogeneous phase. So yeah, composition is known, nothing else to do. You just put this tick mark, right? You just simply put this tick mark, over. But the moment you see that there is phase separation, right? Now you determine the composition of the two phases, and that will essentially give you the ends of the tie line. So obviously, when you are choosing your compositions, you should also take some compositions of pure mixture of A and B and A and C, particularly A and B, because you know that there is going to be phase separation. And now you don't have to randomly draw the dome, which is somewhere in between the homogeneous and the heterogeneous phases, but you simply join these ends, and some bit of extrapolation, you will get this dome. Is it clear to all of you? Is it clear to all? Okay, good. What is this point called? What is this point, incidentally? Constant temperature. You don't vary the temperature, Odrija. You simply vary the composition. Okay, since you have a doubt, let me just explain. Anybody else has any other doubt? So let me just take 2 minutes to explain this. So let's say you have these 2 or 3. So first thing, Odrija and somebody else was talking about temperature. Please forget that there is no variation of temperature. Temperature is constant. Okay. Now what we have here, let's say three different compositions. What I mean by three different composition, A, B, and C, the proportion of A, B, and C, it's not critical point. The compositions of A, B, and C are different. And in all these cases, you see phase separation. You do not see a single phase homogeneous solution, but you see phase separation. In all these cases, you see phase separation. Okay. So let's say these three are points that I have chosen, and I observe. I mean, my choice of points has nothing to do with which composition you would like to take. It's just for convenience of drawing. These 3 points, I observe that. So these are the overall compositions based on the amount of A, B, and C I have mixed. Now I have mixed them, so I know their overall composition. And in these 3 points, so everybody in the class, Odrija has a doubt, it's fine, but everybody else, is it clear when I draw this part of the graph, ticks and the crosses? So I have taken, let's say here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 points or 13 points, right? And out of them 9 are or 10 are ticks and 3 are crosses. So everybody understands what I mean? So all these points where you have a homogeneous mixture, they are represented with this tick. And all these situations or compositions where you have a phase separation, I have just taken one liberty of drawing as if the phase separation and the stratification is very uniform, but that is perfectly fine, right? So this is clear to all? Okay, Padrija, is it clear? So all I am telling is, now for these points you did nothing, you just saw that they are homogeneous and you were happy with it. But for the systems or for the compositions which are showing heterogeneous phase separation, heterogeneous solution or phase separated solution, what you need to do, you need to analyze the composition of the individual phases. Let's say this composition is given by P1, and what you do, after analysis of the composition of the 2 individual phases, you find that the compositions are given by P11 and P12. Now what is P11 and P12? This P11 and P12, when mixed together, gives mathematically the overall composition P1. But more importantly, this P11 and P12 are 2 liquid compositions which are in equilibrium, right? So if this is my P1, you also find that there are 2 additional compositions, P11 and P12, which are associated with this P1, right? Is it clear? So what are these associated P11 and P12 compositions? They are essentially, since there will be phase separation, they are the composition of the 2 liquid phases which are in equilibrium. Is it clear? Is it clear to all? And similarly, for all the other situations where you have phase separation or whatever, you can calculate. Similarly, this drawing is not turning out to be that well. You can calculate the composition of the 2 phases. So for example, here and here, maybe these 2 gives these two compositions. This one and this one gives you this composition. Is it clear now? And now what you do, you simply join these up. You actually join from right hand side and you join from left hand side. You can do an extrapolation and somewhere these two meet and you get the dome. Is it clear? Is it clear to all of you? Anybody else has any doubt? Dipjoy, is it okay? Aditya Jha, are you there? Akshay Agarwal, Aman Kedia, Ayush Surana, Chinmay Jain, Lalit, Mausam, Naman, Palak, Pratik, Rishi, Ronak, Tanay. Is it clear to all? Okay. So now everybody should understand not only what is this, but how you get it. This drawing always on this graph turns out to be bad. And as you construct the dome, you also get these tie lines. These are tie lines. That is clear to everyone. So all these lines are tie lines. That is clear to all. Okay, fine. Now, I also told one quick thing, I need to move on. That after you start getting these points, you essentially join the one that is advancing from the left-hand side and one that is advancing from the right-hand side. And where they essentially join up, this point is called the plate point, not critical point. This is called the plate point. And can anybody tell me what is the significance of the plate point? So plate point can be somewhere over here. It may not be the point, the highest point, or the point with highest XC, right, of the dome. Plate point may not be the highest point of the dome. We will get it clear what it means. Can anybody tell me what is plate point? Rishi Aravar, are you there? Can you tell me what is a plate point? Or anybody else for that matter? No, they are not parallel to each other, Saivardhan. They are certainly not parallel to each other. Don't get carried away by my drawing because it's all freehand. The other thing is that as the amount, so it's a very good question, but see, if we keep on going into these details, our progress will be less. You see, as you are going to the right-hand side, right, here you see there is more B, right? And here there is more, okay, let's not get into that discussion, forget about it. Why? I don't want to have a long discussion on distribution coefficient. Yeah, they are not parallel to each other. Selectivity equal to, yeah, Rishi, give a simple answer. Where the composition of the extract and the raffinate phases becomes equal. Yeah, so Drija is the last composition, or where essentially the composition of the two phases become identical. So as you are now increasing, so one question also similar to what Vardhan was asking is that if you keep on increasing the composition of C, since C, there is now more C into the system, and A and B are both progressively or both completely miscible in C. So eventually you will have a system which is rich in C, and there is enough C to accommodate A and B both. Yeah, so that's fine. Let's not get too much into this because this is hardcore physical chemistry and not exactly what we are interested in. What we are interested is to understand that this is the plate point. This might be important, might not be that important either. And more importantly, these points give the composition of the liquid phases which are in equilibrium with each other, and therefore these are the two ends of a tie line. Is this clear to all? This is, if you understand this, this is good enough for solving extraction problems. And most important thing is, there was some confusion that came to my notice in the class. Notice is there is no effect of temperature. All this you are drawing is at constant temperature and constant pressure. Is this clear? So now with this much amount of knowledge, let us start how to mathematically solve extraction problem. The simplest one is a single stage extractor. The single stage extractor. So what is a single stage extractor? We have drawn n number of times. So we have a feed. We have a solvent. So please understand, F, S, E, and R are not only the names of the streams, but they are also the amount of, just 1 second, please. May not be 1 second, maybe a minute. So single stage extractor. So F, S, E, and R are not only the stream identifiers, but they are amount of each stream or the flow rate. They can be the amount of each stream in case of a batch process, or flow rate for a continuous process. And what is XF? It is the C fraction in feed C fraction in solvent. See, I have deliberately used a symbol S here, not the B. C fraction in extract and C fraction in raffinate. So what we do, remember Arnab sir who taught you mass balance. So what are the equations we can get? We can get an overall mass balance which is, what is that? F plus S is equal to M is equal to E plus R. It's a super easy thing. What we are going to learn is a super easy thing. Only thing is you need the graph, which we already know luckily. And we are also going to write a component balance, the C balance. And what is C balance? FXF plus SYS is equal to MXM equal to EYE plus RXR. Now what is M? M is the, we call it the mixture point, or I call it the mixture point. And XM is, this is important, mathematical composition of C. At M. Have a look. Are these things clear to all of you? I'll just take a minute off and come back. Just have a look. Are these clear to you? I'll be right back. Okay, sorry for the break. Took it a little early today. Needed a cup of coffee. Okay, so this is clear to all, right? So if this is clear to all, and there should have been one question, no questions asked yet. I will ask what that question should have been. Okay, so we can do this. Just 1 second. So now you see what we will do. Okay. So our usual thing. Just 1 second, some problem with the other. Not that we don't waste these times in a class, because on the board might have to do something, this and that. Anyway, sorry for that. I think now we are quite good. So, it's flashed. Did too many things probably. Yeah, most of the stuff is saved, so that's great. Just 1 second again. Extremely sorry for the delay. But just to make your understanding clear. And I really miss the big blackboards of Nalanda. Okay. So now, what has happened? If you now have this graph, so when this graph comes, first thing what you have to do with the graph is, if you are very lucky, you will be given a graph paper which contains the equilibrium plot. But in most practical cases, you will be given the equilibrium data, right? Next class, I will show how it is. And you will have to first plot the graph. So you will get some points like this. And anyway, you need the equilibrium data, because unless you have the equilibrium data, you won't be able to have the tie lines. So tie lines are mandatory. Just having the dome is not going to help. Why and how, you will understand right now. So this is clear. So now the class understands that you are going to have this graph. So what is the mandatory requirement for solving an extraction problem? the mandatory requirement is you must be having the equilibrium data or this dome along with the tie lines. Now you see what are the things. So when I look into these things, I think it is clear to all of you that this figure is clear to all. Right? And typically, F will be given, S will be given, and XF and YS will also be given, and nothing else will be given. Now, what is XF? XF is the fraction of C in the feed. So this will be given. And YS, so what is YS? Fraction of C in the solvent. And here I was expecting a question, but nobody asked. What do you expect is going to be the likely value of YS? What do you expect is going to be the likely value of YS? Zero. Very good. So in most cases, the solvent will be pure B. Most cases. Very likely to be pure B. And importantly, single phase extraction problem, yeah, perfect. Single stage extraction problem, only the feed amount or the feed flow rate, the solvent flow rate, and the composition, that is the value of C in the feed, right? So feed will contain no C, and ideally the solvent should contain, feed should contain no B, and the solvent should contain no C. So what you can do is you now know XF. So where is XF going to lie? Where is the point XF going to lie? Pooja, Shayon, Vardhan, Shomik. Where is the point XF going to lie? On AC, very good. So let's say XF is somewhere over here on the AC line, very good. So this is the feed point. You don't have to write F and stuff like that, but today we are doing it for the first time, so I'll write it. And let's say you have a pure solvent, so this is also your S point, okay? So now you see what we do. So we can locate this on the graph paper. This is clear to all. Now you see what we do. We take of course, this solving online or doing online is very difficult. So for the examination, probably all of you need to get couple of pages of this particular graph printed out on A4 sheets. That is one of the mandatory requirements. I would have anyway passed it in the message today. So better you start getting it. So now what we do is we simply join F and S. We join F and S. Okay. Now you see, so first thing is join F and S. Okay. Now you see that since F and S are known, therefore you can determine the value of M. Now I told you on the very first day why M is important. M is important because this is the total amount of material that your container has to handle at any point of time. Therefore, this is important from the designing or sizing of your equipment, right? So whether you are doing 2 kg of feed with 8 kg of solvent and some XF, and 20 kg of feed and 80 kg of solvent with the same XF, on the graph will look exactly the same because XF and S are same. but the actual size of the equipment is going to be different. That is the utility of this point M. Okay, so you can determine M, some number, but more importantly, from this component balance equation now, C balance, you can actually find out Xm. From C balance, you can determine Xm, and for a pure solvent, Xm is going to be simply F by M into XF. Okay? Is it clear? Now what should we do? So the class, kindly check out. We have found out so what we have started to do, we have located XF, we have located YS, we have joined them, right? And so once we have joined F and S, next we determine Xm from C balance equation. Is it clear to all? Is it clear to all? F and S are known, therefore M is known, right? XF is known, YS is known, F is known, S is known, M is known, therefore XM is known. Okay. Now let me check with the class, and particularly let me touch base with Mosho. Are you there? Let me touch base with the silent folks. Padamsi, are you there? Palak, are you there? Rishav, are you there? Chavi, are you there? Anik, are you there? Arjav, are you there? So next, who is going to tell me what to do? Bhagavati, are you there? Jay, are you there? Siddhant, are you there? Tridipta, are you there? Uday, are you there? Vaishnavi, are you there? Vivek, Surekha, Tanmay, Swarup, Rishi, Suvada Rishi, Shubhojit, Somil, Soham, Shubham Kumar, Shraman, Shoaib Nazir, Shikha Kumari. Who is going to tell me? So yes, sir, well taken. You are all there. Who is going to tell me what do we do with this determined value of Xm? Or in simple terms, where does Xm lie? Anyone? Shoham, any idea where Xm will lie? Inside the dome, okay, Vardhan? Not a great answer. Vaishnavi, any idea where Xm will lie? Tridipta? Where will Xm lie? And what is Xm? Xm is actually a composition of C, right? Very good. So you can find out Xm. So This is x equal to 0, this is x equal to 0.1, 0.2, it goes like this. Let's say we have got a value of xm is equal to 0.18, let's say. Right, so what do we do? First thing you need to understand, xm will lie on the line fs. Because why? Because of this. xm is nothing but a weighted average or weighted sum, not even average, right? So first thing you need to understand, xm lies on the line fs, number one. And number two is, so you have a line fs, and on this point, on this line, you are simply going to locate the concentration, the value of xm on this line. So a particular xm or composition of x means one horizontal line because C is over here. And all you are going to do is at which point this fs line is going to have that value of x. Is it clear? X is the composition of C. Is it clear how you locate xm? If not, I will tell again. Don't have some doubt, because this is the most important step. So now that I have told, and Rishi gave the correct answer, and Sai Vardhan also. So first thing is xm lies on the line fs. This is number one, and xm is a value of xc actually. It's the composition of C, right? So you all know, let's say if I just tell you x is equal to 0.2, which line, where is x equal to 0.2? This line is x equal to 0.2, this particular line. Everybody agrees to that? Similarly, whatever is the value of x you get, xm in this particular case, it's actually a horizontal line. This is clear to all? Is this clear to all? So you now have a value of xm. So for xm, infinite number of points are possible. But what you do is you are going to take the points from the physics of the system. You now know the point M lies on the line fs, and therefore you are simply going to locate on that line wherever is the value of x is equal to xm. Is it clear to all? Fine. So now you have located the point xm. What next? Is there anyone who has any doubt how to locate the point xm? Endpoints, or not the correct word? And Rishi, while I'm very happy you are giving all the answers, your other friends should catch up. Adrija, what should we do after we have located xm? Anyone? The class is having some difficulty in understanding. I'm sorry to say. We need to get this concept absolutely clear. Varun Balakrishna, can you tell me what should we do next? Shomik, can you tell? Shayon Haldar, can you tell? Shayon Maiti, can you tell? Vardhan, can you tell? Others? Adrija, can you tell what to do? Vaishnavi, can you tell what to do? Tridipta, can you tell what to do? Shoham, are you there? I have been calling you for a while. Siddhant, can you tell what to do? Vivek, I am calling you for a while. Okay. Yeah, that's what is worrying me. See, since XM is within the two-phase dome, what does it mean? Does the point exist physically? XM has to lie actually, lies, it will split, Tanmay, very good. Not XF, XM. Okay, Vivek. Okay, Adrija. XM lies within the dome. In fact, it has to lie within the dome. It will lie on a tie line. Samira, very good. So now can Samira, you tell me what to do next? Tanmay, your answer is perfect, but you just need to correct. It's not XF, it's XM. XF is the feed point. So few of you have already given me the correct answer. Others are very close to getting the concept. So you please understand. Maybe I will take a minute. See, everybody understands this. Why this plot? So everybody understands this, yes or no? Kindly confirm. This is clear to everyone? This graph is clear to everyone? Vivek Sureka, you said you do not know what to do, but this graph is clear to all of you? Okay, fine. Now here you see that you have some tie lines. Here you see, this is a very simple doubt. I mean, no other professor will entertain this doubt. Here you only see some tie lines because you cannot do, when you are doing in reality experiments, you cannot run a do loop. So you have to take some compositions, and based on that, you have generated some tie lines. But that does not mean that these are the only tie lines. There are going to be infinite number of tie lines, right? Infinite number of tie lines. Like this, which you have not plotted. So now let's say you take a point over here. Now, since this point is within the dome, this point, no homogeneous liquid corresponding to this composition exists in reality. Is this clear? No. Oops. No homogeneous liquid corresponding to this composition exists. It's going to split up into two phases. Samira, when you gave your answer, this is what you had in your mind? And this everybody understands? So the reason the class is stuck up is because of a logistic issue. Let's say this is our point XM. This lies on the dome, inside the dome, but this does not lie on one of the tie lines that are pre-drawn or one of the existing tie lines. However, since this point is inside the dome, it is obvious that it's going to split up. You cannot have a homogeneous composition. All of you kindly check, is this concept clear to you? So this point just gives a mathematical composition, but physically, no homogeneous liquid is possible. And this is going to split up. This is going to split up into two liquid phases. This is clear? This is clear to all of you? Only thing is that a tie line is not there. And here you have to use intuitiveness or interpolation to draw a makeshift tie line. You don't have a tie line. You are not lucky enough that equilibrium data is also. Here is it how it goes when you are executing. You have equilibrium data, you plot the dome, you draw the tie line. Now you calculate XM. You find XM is within the dome, but XM does not falls within on a tie line. This is the actual situation. Had XM fallen on a tie line, there is no problem. According to the two ends of the tie line, you know the two compositions. But the class was stuck up based on the fact, because I deliberately located XM in such a way that it does not fall on a tie line. Is it clear? So what you have to do, you now have to draw a makeshift tie line based on the slope, some interpolation technique, whatever. And nobody is going to deduct your marks if your tie line is not perfect. But this is what you have to do. Is it clear to all of you now? Because XM lies inside the dome, it will not remain as a homogeneous liquid, and it's going to phase separate into two liquid phases. The two liquid phases, as somebody very nicely written, P11 and P12, are going to be given by the two ends of the tie line that is passing through XM. Is it clear now? People, is it clear? And what are these 2 points? Well, this is, so the composition here is your YE, and the composition here is your XR, or this is your point E and this is your point R, isn't it? Because what you do is you mix everything together and then they phase separate. What determines their phase separation? The equilibrium. And the two compositions are in equilibrium. So what you have is E amount of extract with composition YE and R amount of raffinate with composition XR. Is it clear? I got only confirmation from Odrija. What's the point? 80 people are present and only 2 are saying that the doubt is clear. Padamshi, is it clear? No, you cannot get exact tie line, Sharon. Those are not very intelligent questions. Of course, this, whenever you are going in for a graphical technique, right? Just remember the way you used to plot a parabola or whatever, or even a hyperbola or any curve. There's always a certain degree of approximation whenever you are drawing graph. Somebody with neater handwriting will actually get a better graph, and somebody with a bad handwriting like me will not get a better graph. Those are, please don't ask such rather silly questions. Yeah, it is an approximate tie line. Understand the physics. So what do we have to do? We now understand that XM cannot exist so as a homogeneous liquid. So it's going to split up into two compositions, the extract and the raffinate, which are given by the, as Rishi Yaravar right at the beginning told, and I did not sort of give him a applause at that point of time because I wanted others to catch up rather than only 2-3 people understanding. So it gets splits up into two equilibrium compositions, which are the YE and XR. And that's all about it. So this is the utility of the graph. The graph will give you YE and XR. And now you look into the other part of the equation, EYE plus RXR is equal to MXM, and E plus R is equal to M. So now you see YE is known, XR is known, M is known, XM is known. So it simply becomes a simultaneous equation. Solve for E and R. And that's it. So we have successfully solved a single stage extraction problem. It can be a continuous process. It can be a batch process. Is it clear to all of you? Okay. And couple of quick things. So I guess certain points I'm going to highlight. I just check if you understand. XM must lie within that two-phase dome. So how do you get XM? Let me just, as if use this as we have got it somehow. So everybody now understands how we are going to get XM. You have to locate XF, join it with YS is equal to 0, which is the pure solvent. Simultaneously solve for the mass and the component balance. What are those? F plus S is equal to M and F XF plus SYS, which in most cases is equal to 0, is equal to MXM. So you locate the point XM. This should be clear to everyone. Now let me ask you one quick question. I have marked 2 points, M1 and M2, right? Which actually correspond to where the line FS M1 and M2 points where FS intersects the dome, right? What is the physical significance of these two line points? What is the physical significance of M1 and M2? Samira, can you tell? It's actually fun, big fun. Well, that's not the physical significance, Shayan. There is a very important physical significance. Good, you tried. Transition between Samira, you also fell into the same trap as Shayan. Does not help. Varun, Vivek, Surekha, Tridipta, Vaishnavi, Padamsi, phase separation. Tanmay, can you just rethink what is the physical significance? What you are telling is what is happening from the graph. So we all understand that in the zone M1F and M2B, there will be no phase separation. So if you choose your compositions in such a way, or your flow rates or amounts in such a way, that I'm actually giving the hint that if the point XM lies in the zones M1F or M2B, you are not going to have any extraction. You are not going to have any extraction. Because if your point, Varun, very close, but not the composition. It's not the maximum and minimum composition. We cannot extract, show me. So, but Podrija, can anybody tell me what is the physical significance of these 2 points and how you sort of can vary XM between point M1 and M2? Well, you just check out, it means, so how do you actually do when you are
doing the experiment or setting up the equipment, how do you do? So you have certain amount of feed, right? Feed is coming and you have to sort of extract from that. So F is known, XF is known, and your design parameter is actually the solvent. So you can vary the amount of S, right? Udrija, the amount of feed you should not vary, because as an engineer, you are told that I have this much amount of feed with this composition from which you are to perform extraction. But what you vary, you are close but not fully correct. What you vary is the feed amount, is the solvent amount. So you check out that M1 and M2 actually gives the minimum and the maximum amount of solvent, corresponds to the points, which corresponds to the minimum and maximum amount of solvent for which extraction is possible. How? Because we have seen that what is XM? XM is F by M into XF, right? Mathematically, we have seen this, assuming that you have a pure solvent. Now you see, if your M increases, then your XM will gradually decrease. And if your M decreases, XM will increase. This is clear to all, right? Now, if F is constant, this is where you are gaining maturity as an engineer. See, mathematically, you can say, I will vary F, I will vary S, whatever you want to do. As long as you are doing it in a textbook situation, it's fine. Or in an examination situation, it's fine. But the moment you walk into an industry, F is going to be fixed. The industry produces 500 kg of some chemical, right, which you need to extract. And you say, no, see, RM sir has told if we take feed equal to 500 kg, we will go out of the dome. So I will design for 50 kg. And next day you will be back to RM sir again asking for a reco letter because you will lose your job. As simple as that. So this is where you need to understand your maturity as an engineer comes in. Feed is constant. So if F is constant, then the variation of M, whether it will increase or decrease, will depend only on whether your S is increasing or decreasing. So now you see, M increases means M increases is possible when S increases, right? So as S increases, the solvent increases, XM decreases. So XM decreases means X is coming down, but X has to lie on the FS line. So this is the limiting value of M for which you can have the maximum amount of solvent flow rate. And this is the limiting value of which corresponds to the minimum amount of solvent flow rate. Is it clear to all? If it is not clear, kindly get it clarified, because I have explained it in as much simplicity as possible. Just check it out. Corresponds to, this corresponds to minimum value of S, and this corresponds to maximum value of X, value of S. Is it clear to the class? Is it clear to the class? Samira, is it clear? Okay, great. So this we understand. One more quick thing is, let me just draw another figure. This is looking too clumsy. So this will also give us, an opportunity to check our understanding.
Drawing a horizontal line is a big problem. Okay. So there we go. First is you have to generate the dome. Let's do that. Oh, sorry, guys, everyone. I'm extremely sorry for this time waste. Something like this. And you have XF. You join XF in FS, calculate XM, draw a tie line. So Shayan, this is exactly what you have to do. It is an approximate tie line. So you get YE and XR. And from the line itself, you can find out M1 and M2, which corresponds to the minimum and the maximum. Sorry, rather the maximum and minimum and the maximum. M1 corresponds to the minimum, M2 corresponds to the maximum flow rate of the solvent you can have. Now let us draw our attention. So this part is clear now, crystal clear to everyone. Let us draw our attention to XF. XF is the fraction of C in the feed. Question here is there a limiting value of XF that can be extracted by a particular solvent? Is the question clear to all? And the answer to this lies in the clue is XM must lie in the, not in the, inside the dome. Yes. Anyone? I will not waste any time. Perfect answer from Varun Balakrishna. Great. The limiting value of feed is it is given by a tangent to this dome. No, not the plate point, Tanmay. You fell into that trap, and this is actually a great opportunity for me to explain that plate point is not the point. It is actually a tangent. So what you have to determine, I'm coming to it. Tanmay, very good attempt, but unfortunately it's wrong. So this is the XF, the limiting XF. So what you need to do, you essentially need to draw a tangent. So first the execution part, draw a tangent to the dome that passes through B. Now extend it so that it intersects AC, that XF
is the limiting. Is this clear to all? Tanmay, probably will understand yourself that this point where the line is tangent to the dome is not the plate point. It has nothing to do with the plate point. In fact, the way we have our graph, this particular dome, plate point is somewhere here. Is it clear to the class? Bhavna, is it clear? Ayush, Iron, is it clear? Abhilash Sinha, is it clear? Abhishek Purohit, Achal Kumar, Adarsh Kumar. Akhil Dama, Akshay Agarwal, Ankit Verma, Badri Vishal, Ayush, Chavi, Chavi, are you there? Jyotiraditya, Girija, Kaushal, Lalit, Naman, Nidhi, Paulomi, Pratik, Rahul Goldar, Rahul Nath, Rahul Kumawat, Rakesh, Rishabh, Sahil, Sajjad, Sanskar, Saksham Gautam, Shivam Raj, Shivans Raj, Shraman, Siddhant, Soham, Somil, Shubhojit, Suhada Rishi, Sharup Mondol, Udatha, Uday Mishra, Utkarsh, Sai Venkat, Yash Jain. Okay, good. So I hope it is clear. So from here, what we get is YE and XR. But you see, XR might still contain some amount of C, which you may want to extract. So what do you do? What you do is, of course, we are chemical engineers, so we know that we go for stage operation. So what we have learned is a single stage extractor. And next what we do is we go for some very special configuration. We go for multi-stage, but cross-flow or cross-current extractor. This is a very interesting concept, but very easy concept. Right, so what you do is, instead of a single stage, it's exactly like what we were doing earlier. So you have feed, F, XF, you have solvent, S1, YS. And what you have is extract E1. Why E1 is coming? Because this is now the first stage. So what you do is the raffinate that comes out of the first stage is again put into the second stage, another extractor. Again, you have solvent. You see the solvent for the second stage, the flow rate is S2, but the composition is S. You typically will not be using solvent. In most cases, you will be using pure solvent. And from the second stage, the extract will come E2, YE2. Then the raffinate from the second stage will be taken to the third stage, again extracted with fresh solvent. And so on. And what you do is that all these extract streams you join up to get the combined extract, where E is nothing but E1 plus E2 plus E3, and it's a combination, some composition YE, which you can determine. So this is what is known as a cross current or a cross flow configuration. There's nothing much to understand into this. So this is all about it. So what you do, the extract from the first stage, the raffinate extract from the first stage is taken away, but the raffinate from the first stage, which we got, is not discarded, but instead what is done is it is again put into another extractor, the second stage, where it is extracted again, right? So just give me a minute. Okay. So this is the cross flow configuration. And let us now write the balance equations. Do whatever we want to do. Sometimes online classes are advantageous because I don't have to draw it, but yeah, of course, in a blackboard, I would have written it. So multi-stage cross flow. What is known, people? What is known? What is known in an extraction problem? What is known is F is known, S is known, or S1 is known. In these cases, S2, S3, all these are known. XF is known, YS is known. Anything else is known? Anything else is known? Number of stages, yeah. Okay, you are choosing 3, 4, whatever. Of course, it is known. Anything else, Varun? Well, I don't want to waste time. Of course, the equilibrium plot has to be known, or the equilibrium data has to be known. Please do not forget that.
So when we are saying what is known, number of stages is known and equilibrium data is known. So what is the equation? F plus S1 is equal to M1 and Fxf plus Sys S1 Ys1 is equal to M1 Xm1. Let's write it nicely. It's exactly similar to the calculations we have done so far. Fxf plus S1 Ys1 is equal to M1 Xm1. Right? So what is known? Point Xm1 known. Right? And now I'm not going to waste too much amount of time on this because the class is now a knowledgeable class. You know what to do. So here we go. Here is our equilibrium data. Some tie lines are known. One quick question to check your concepts. How many tie lines are shown in this graph I have drawn? Odrija, quickly, how many tie lines are shown here? Samira, I've got the correct answer. It's not 3, 4. Because please do not forget, this is also another tie line. Is it clear to everyone that this graph, we are actually showing 4 tie lines, not 3? Okay, good. So what we do, let's say we mark XF over here. Let's say XF is given. And what is the value of XF? It's 30% here, the way if we draw it like this. So what next? This is the point F. What next? All of you should scribble what to do. We join FB or FS, right? We join it. We now know the value of XM. So here is our XM, not XM, XM1, right? Here is XM1. And what now we have to do? We now have to consider a tie line that is passing through XM1. So this point now gives, what does this point give? What does this point give? YE1 or E1? Okay. Very good. Tanmay, perfect. All of you have given the correct answer. Tanmay, when you say extract, now you have to be careful. It's the extract that is coming out from the first stage. So that is YE1, and this point gives XR1, right? So you can solve for what? E1 and R1, right? That you can solve for E1 and R1. How? Because E1, I guess all of you know, right? E1 plus R1 is equal to M1. And E1 YE1 plus R1 XR1
is M1 XM1. Clear to everyone? Now can the class tell me what needs to be done? Now you can determine the point M2 is equal to R2 plus S2. And Varun, perfect. So the next stage is, and from here, corresponding equation of XM2 into M2 is equal to XR1. See, I made a mistake. Nobody is pointing out. It's R1 plus S2. XR1 becoming too clumsy. Okay. And XM2 into M2 equal to R1 XR1 plus S2 YS2. This in most cases will be 0. So you can determine XM2, right? And so XM2 you calculate mathematically. And here from the graph, what you do, you join XR1 and B, right? And on that line, you locate XM2 right? And then what you do, you simply draw a second tie line through the point XM2. This will give you YE2 and XR2. These are cumbersome problems. Graph becomes cluttered, but very easy to execute. Is it clear to everyone? Is it clear to everyone? And so what are you going to gain by doing this? You see, progressively with higher and higher amount of stages, the value of XR 2, 3, 4 subsequently is going to tend or going to go closer to 0. So you now see that your XR2 is lower than XR1. So what it means that after one single stage, whatever was the, so what is XR? XR is the remnant C that is remaining in the raffinate. But C is still your desired product. So what you do, again you do some washing with the solvent or extraction with the solvent, and the solvent extracts out some additional amount of C. So you see XR2 is going to be less than XR1, XR3 is going to be less than XR2, etc., etc. So the amount of C in R, the final raffinate, which is the unextracted part. So this is actually the unextracted C in the final raffinate. So this you can reduce by a cross flow configuration. Is this clear to everyone? So I guess now this class understands what is single stage extraction and what is multi-stage cross flow extraction. And for a single stage extraction, just take a minute to explain this. For a single stage extraction, only the feed flow rate, feed composition, solvent flow rate, solvent composition are specified. You do not specify the XR or the raffinate composition. This is clear to all? Right? Why we do not specify the raffinate composition? Because raffinate comes from the equilibrium. Now, in case I define a problem where feed flow rate, feed composition, solvent flow rate, solvent composition, and raffinate composition is specified. What would that mean? Or what do you have to do? Yes. Can anybody tell why raffinate, if raffinate composition is specified, that would actually give some different hint. No, Varun, it doesn't work like that. Feed is anyway known. So if in a problem you find, of course, you cannot have single stage and the raffinate is defined. If in a problem you find that your raffinate composition is also defined, that would immediately mean that after doing a single stage calculation, if you are unable to attain that raffinate composition, it means it is hinting for a multiple stage operation, right? And the other way, so as somebody, I think you only told that here you have to define the number of stages. The other way of defining the problem is you define the, this is the reason I was asking what is known. The other way of defining the problem is you define the final raffinate composition, right? That I do not want, this is a very costly chemical and I do not want more than 3% of the chemical to get wasted in the raffinate. That means your XR, the final value of XR is going to be 0.03. In that case, you go on adding stages till your final raffinate or XRN becomes less than equal to 0.03. Is it clear? Even if it is not clear, we will take it up nicely in the next class. Okay, we have 13 minutes less and remaining, and what is next is the continuous counter current extractor. Up next, which is a little complicated topic. Of course, we were lucky to have cross current now, and next is the counter current extractor. So this I will take up in the next class. And for today, let's finish the class 10 minutes ahead of schedule or 13 minutes ahead of schedule. So I will stop here because I guess it was, you all learned something new, at least how to handle the equilibrium plot for a single stage extractor and for the cross flow configuration. I am sure, Drija. See, this is a problem. Whenever I want to skip something, people grab me by my neck here. Okay, I have given you the access to my neck. So, great question by Odrija. One of my favorite questions, actually. I thought that let's not overburden people with this. and I wanted to skip. So anyway, so that means that we are not going to leave the class 13 minutes before, maybe 2-3 minutes more. You see, let me quickly, okay, it's this graph. So you see what is X and what is Y. Suppose this is my point xm, and this is my extract, and this is my raffinate. This is clear to all? This is clear to all? So this, as I told, is more of a convention, because when you are talking about gas liquid equilibrium, right? We typically use Y for the gas phase and X for the liquid phase. But what we have is these two phases are in equilibrium. And you conveniently draw this Y versus X line, right? For the operating line and whatever. Here, what you have is everything is liquid. So one can always ask that why do I use YE, right? Why not XE and XR? That is your question, Udrija? Because both are liquid. Now, that is highly doable because they are in the liquid stage. So the reason you are asking this question is you are used to considering or using Y only when it is the gas. But if I say that I am going to use X and Y for the two phases which are in equilibrium, that can be another perspective, or in the other words, that is the reason why you actually use X and Y, because eventually you will be seeing some plot where we will not always use the triangular plot for extraction calculation. We will be using some sort of an X versus Y plot, where essentially this is what you are going to plot. So you see, a very quick comment. So this dome, can I get this dome in the form of this type of a graph? Can I get this dome into this type of an equilibrium plot? The answer is yes. If you simply, so what are you going to have? You are going to have this type of equilibrium data. You are going to have this type of equilibrium data. So which are one, let's say, at the two extremities of this point, or two is the extremities of this point, Y2, Y1, Y3, Y4, something like that. So it is possible that you plot this XC and Y values into a plot like this. And now, if you are using X and Y, so then the coordinates of your plot will be XE and XR, right? Yeah, by not only plotting the endpoints of the tie line, but plotting the C composition corresponding to the endpoints of the tie line. So it is more of a perception that instead of drawing something as XE versus XR, so apparently to an onlooker, it will look like an X versus X plot. Instead of that, people thought it will look better if we have an Y versus X plot, right? Because of the simple fact is the way I started to teach. It is more of a perception. There is nobody can stop you, Udrija. If you decide to write, I am going to write XR and XE. Nobody is going to stop you. But this is more of a perception, right? Because of the fact, if you remember, the way I started teaching you extraction was at every step comparing it with distillation, right? So in distillation, you use an equilibrium plot in the form y versus x. So people thought probably it would be good if we also use an equilibrium plot in the form y versus x here. That is the reason extract composition is termed as y and raffinate composition is termed as x. But the main difference, that's the only answer I have. There is no further logic behind it other than perception and convention, just to make it look comparable to distillation. However, if your concepts are not clear, I have seen many people fumbling and making this wrong, or developing this wrong notion that an x versus y plot in distillation and an x versus y plot in extraction are same, roughly same. Well, the answer is they are not, because an y versus x plot in distillation, each point, x versus y point, are taken at different temperatures, number one, and it represents a VLE plot, vapor liquid equilibrium plot. In contrast, an x versus y plot in extraction, all the points are at the same temperature, and it's an LLE plot. It's a liquid-liquid equilibrium plot. But it corresponds for, at each point corresponds to different combinations of A and B, which is analogous to different composition of T in distillation. That's all I can answer. Are you convinced or not? That partly depends on you. It's a convention, you can say. There is nothing much to understand, Odrija, to be very honest. This is more of a perception of the people who were defining these areas, and that's how it has evolved. It's a great question that you asked. Yeah, because everything is liquid, so one can always think that one can write everything in terms of X. More importantly, another interesting thing is, since feed is on the raffinate side, feed is on the left side of the plot, and solvent is on the right side of the plot, it is more based on convention that feed is written as X and solvent is written as Y. That is another important thing, because see, solvent has nothing to do with extract or raffinate, so nor is the feed. But the convention is, how do you distinguish between extract and raffinate? So extract is solvent rich. And raffinate is solvent lean. Right? So since the solvent is also rich in solvent, you typically, or you mark it as YS. And on the other hand, if your feed lean on solvent, you mark it as excess. One very quick question: is it possible to have a system with tie lines having a negative slope? Is it possible? And if so, under what condition you can have it, and what is going to be the consequence? I think I will start from here in the next class, and let me finish today's class. Thank you very much, everyone. No, A is not the solvent, B remains the solvent, C remains the solute, and can you have a system which has a negative slope? The symbols remain the same. Okay, so since the class is not showing any sign of getting fatigued, C is more soluble in A. So this is a very rare solvent, rare system where C has lower solubility in B than A. But you may still want to go for such a strange extraction under certain practical conditions that your chemical C is very, very costly, and there is no means by which you can separate A from C. So you might actually plug in B, which has lower solubility in C, but B and C are separatable. So I wanted to have that 13-minute break. Thanks to Adrija and others, that 13-minute is now gone and I have to now log off. Thank you very much for joining, and we will start with the continuous flow. Just think about this particular situation we talked about. These are all the special cases. I think I'll start from here in the next class. Thank you very much, everyone. And I will leave the meeting now. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Adrija. Thanks, Shayan.